Hi, I'm Carol Dick, the Green Party candidate for London North Centre. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are currently gathered on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape, and the Attawadden. The three neighboring Indigenous nations to London are the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, the Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, who continue to live as sovereign nations with their own individual cultures, language, and customs, and who continue to steward the land that we live, work, and play on. This provincial election is pivotal. We are facing a climate crisis, and how our government chooses to address this challenge will directly affect our ability to adapt to and mitigate climate change. Just this past month, our City Council passed the Climate Emergency Action Plan and declared London's intention to reach zero emissions by 2050 through waste reduction, green infrastructure, and investments in technology. But our greatest success will come from harnessing the incredible capital that we have here in London, our citizens. We have an amazing environmental community here that works collaboratively to bring concrete solutions to our most pressing problems, including SoulCan, which is a family-owned and operated business here in London since 1975, and Bird Friendly London, which educates the public on ways to protect our local bird species through building retrofits such as on the one behind me with bird-friendly windows. The Ontario Greens equally have an ambitious plan to reduce emissions while making Ontario a leader in green technology and in the green economy. We are incredibly fortunate today to have Mike Schreiner, leader of the Green Party of Ontario, to talk to us about the green plan for a new climate economy. So please join me in welcoming Mike to London.
Oh, thank you, Carol. It is so great to be in London today, and I'm honored to be joined by three fantastic candidates: Carol Dick, London North Centre; Zach Ramsey, London Fanshawe; and Colleen McCauley, London West. Give it up for these great green candidates. I'm here today to say that it is time to invest in the jobs of the future, not the polluters of the past. The huge economic opportunities that exist in the new climate economy is there for Ontario to lead if we have a government that's going to support climate action, not the Ford government that is so hostile to the new green economy, which is setting Ontario back. Other jurisdictions are forging ahead, taking advantage of the new career and job opportunities that exist in the emerging markets of the new climate economy. And I'm here to tell the people of Ontario, we need more green MPPs, like the three green candidates standing beside me today, so that we can invest in the future. Yeah, absolutely. So today, I'm proud to announce our investment in the young people of this province, in their future, in their jobs, in their career opportunities, by announcing that the Ontario Greens are committed to providing free tuition for 60,000 young people for training and retraining in new climate economy jobs, and guaranteeing all 60,000 a year of employment through apprenticeships. We know that the workforce of the present and the future is the green workforce. The workforce that's going to install solar panels on the roof, like the roof behind me, on buildings across this province. But we also know that if we're going to take advantage of the huge job and career opportunities in the new climate economy, we have to address the labor shortages that exist. particularly in the trades. And that's why we are going to invest in the jobs for young people in this province, because we know that youth unemployment is at a much higher level than the provincial unemployment rate. And we also know that we need to target with our jobs program Black, Indigenous, racialized people and women to be a part of the trades and the new climate economy. So the choice is clear in this election. Vote for the old line parties that are offering no measures or half measures to address the climate crisis and the opportunities that exist for green jobs in the new climate economy, or vote for your children's future. A future that is bright, a future where new climate economy jobs will generate the prosperity we need to invest in better education, better public health care, and better social services. So my vote, and I encourage you to say your vote in this election, is to vote for our children's future, their opportunities, and their ability to attain the skills they need and that Ontario needs to succeed in the new climate economy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today.
All right, we will now take questions from the ground. Go right ahead.
It looks to me like the Greens don't have candidates in all ridings yet. Are you committed to running 124 province-wide?
Oh yeah, we actually almost have a full slate of candidates. We're only a couple candidates away, and we will absolutely have a full slate of 124 candidates. And I'm proud of the diverse slate of candidates we have. Well over 65% of our candidates will be from equity-deserving groups and communities in our society. And we want to be clear, every person in every riding in this province should have the opportunity to vote green and to vote for the Ontario they want to build, because we know Greens are ready to provide the leadership to improve your lives and ensure a livable future for our children.
Just wondering, I know the party's platform is to be electric cars, green energy, and all that, but it's very hard to get those vehicles right now, especially in southwestern Ontario. What's your policy? And the price is so high.
Yeah.
Right. So the people who can't afford these things, even though if rebates come in, you still can't afford it. What's the party's policy to help those who can't afford them, and until there's an abundance of these vehicles? I mean, we see gas prices at $1.94 today. So what's your policy to help those who can't afford?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, the high cost of living and the cost of living crisis that we're facing is really hitting families hard. And it's not only fuel, it's also food and housing, which we'll talk about as well. But let's start with fuel. We're the first party that called for cutting transit fares in half to provide immediate relief to commuters. And we're happy to see other parties following our lead in making transit more affordable. We're the only party that's calling for building connected, livable, affordable communities where people aren't forced into these long, expensive, soul-crushing commutes, which makes life more expensive for them. We will make electric vehicles affordable for people by offering a $10,000 rebate on the purchase of a new electric vehicle, a $1,000 rebate on the purchase of a used electric vehicle, and a $1,000 rebate on electric bikes, which, by the way, actually, if you look across North America, the market for electric bikes is actually growing as faster than electric cars, because people know it is a very low-cost form of personal electrified transportation. Actually, we just did an event a couple days ago at a company that specializes in selling electric vehicles, and he told me that if I'm ever asked on the campaign trail about access to electric vehicles, to say that there's a robust used electric vehicle market that consumers can take advantage of, and that's one of the reasons we're offering rebates. I'll give you an example of how this can make electric vehicles more affordable for people. And by the way, the production of electric vehicles is growing rapidly. We would have more supply in Ontario if the Ford government wasn't so actively hostile over the last few years to electric vehicles. I mean, those companies are going to sell into jurisdictions and provinces and states in the U.S. that are supportive of electric vehicles, and Ontario hasn't been, and so we're behind. But to give you an example, the electric vehicle I drive is listed for $38,000 right now, with a $5,000 rebate from the federal government and a $10,000 rebate from the Ontario Greens. That's a $23,000 vehicle. Anybody who wants to can afford to own a car, a $23,000 vehicle is a very affordable car. Then on top of that, you take into consideration that to fill it up with electricity overnight is like $5, and at a high-speed charging station is about $15 versus people having to spend over $100 at the pumps. So what we're saying is let's get big oil out of our lives so people can afford the escalating costs of transportation.
But you didn't answer the question of those who still cannot afford vehicles and are relying on gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your party going to do to help those who can't afford these? I mean, it's great you have cars that you figure could be about 23,000, but you have the workforce with trucks and everything that are needed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and these guys are paying $240 to fill up a pickup truck, but they need that pickup truck for their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And an electric pickup truck will not be $23,000.
Yeah.
What's your policy to help those who can't afford electric?
Yeah. You know what? We're not going to stand here and throw election gimmicks at you. We're going to have to address the systemic causes of transportation costs. In the 1970s, we went through this when oil prices went through the roof. Right before the financial crisis in 2008, we went through this when oil prices and gas prices went through the roof. We're going through it now. These are global supply chain shocks driven by geopolitical events. And let's be honest with people about the only way we're going to avoid this continuing to happen is to electrify transportation and just get big oil out of our lives. And that's why we're saying, let's make electric vehicles affordable for people. Let's take advantage of the fact that so many automotive companies are now investing in electric vehicle manufacturing to ramp up the supply of electric vehicles. Let's make transit affordable for people. Let's make communities safe for people to, be able to commute by electric bike, for example. We have to address the systemic causes of the rising cost of living. And while we're at it, let's address the housing crisis in a way that reduces people's commuting costs. That's why we're saying let's get rampant speculation out of the housing market. Let's make it easier for people to build duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes, laneway housing, tiny housing, so we can build livable, affordable, connected, mixed-use communities. I look at the new community in London, West 5, that's a net zero mixed-use community. Those are the kind of communities we need to build so people aren't forced into these expensive, long commutes.
Another question on the ground?
Yeah.
The Liberals and NDP have come out with platform planks about the environment, about climate change. What are you going to do to sort of differentiate yourself from them and really kind of get, environmentally conscious voters on your side to vote for you instead of one of the big three?
Yeah, well, I would just say that unfortunately, the Liberal plan especially, but the NDP plan as well, just lacks the ambition that's needed to fully address the climate crisis. We're the only party that is saying, let's have a carbon budget year over year of how government's going to crush climate pollution. Our plan is to do it by cutting it in half by 2030, be fully net zero by 2045. Unlike the other plans that set targets, governments across Canada have set targets year after year and have never met them. And that is why we need to bring in a carbon budget. And we've also the only party that's modeled out a detailed plan year by year, sector by sector, of how we crush climate pollution by electrifying transportation and making electrified transportation affordable for people, by building connected communities where people don't have to have these long, expensive, pollution spewing commutes, frankly. We are the most aggressive party in helping people save money by saving energy, by retrofitting their buildings and electrifying home heating. We're the only party that's aggressively set out a plan to support businesses to reduce their carbon footprint and be global leaders in the new climate economy. And I know not everything is driven by money, but our investment just in helping businesses transition alone is the same level of financial commitment that the Liberals' entire climate plan is. And then you take on top of that what we're proposing to help electrify transportation and help people save money by saving energy, by retrofitting their buildings. And so I just want to say to the other parties, you know, I think because of the growth of the Green Party, because of how effective we've been at Queen's Park, we see other parties now putting forward plans to address climate. We just need them to be more aggressive, because the bottom line is we cannot afford to wait. The IPCC has said it's now or never. It's now or never to address this climate crisis. And as we look at emerging markets around the world in the new climate economy, it's now or never for Ontario to be the global leader so we can ensure economic prosperity for our children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews moving forward.
You've mentioned all this money to creating greener, to training people for greener jobs. What's your party's plan to ensure that those greener jobs are available for the people of Ontario and enticing those businesses to come and grow here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, we have labor shortages in Ontario right now, especially in the trades. And so the fact that we're aggressively saying not only are we going to recruit and encourage more young people to go into the trades, we're actually going to help them financially by providing free tuition for them. But we also have a $5 billion, and this gets to the previous question, a $5 billion plan to fund green innovation, green technology, EV mobility, bioproducts, and biomaterials, so Ontario can be a global leader in the new climate economy. And on top of that, we have a $4 billion green bond commitment to help fund entrepreneurs and startups in the new climate economy, and most importantly, to help those businesses that are already starting up to scale and commercialize their products, which is one of the biggest barriers to fully rolling out Ontario being a global leader in the new climate economy. And so it's really having government there as a partner with the private sector to create these new career and job opportunities for people and to help these businesses scale so they can create even more jobs and more prosperity for our communities.
My question concerns the carbon tax. I've never understood why the carbon tax is revenue neutral. What purpose does that serve? Would it not make more sense to use the proceeds from the tax to green the economy? Because what's the point of taking money from my left-hand pocket to put it back into my right-hand pocket? What have I learned? Nothing.
Well, actually, I would respectfully disagree with you on that, and most Nobel-winning prize economists would argue that putting a price on carbon pollution and then helping people with the transition, that creates the market incentives for people to lower their carbon footprint. So if you know that you can reduce the amount of money you pay in tax by reducing your carbon footprint, and then you get money back as a rebate, you maximize your rebate by lowering your carbon footprint. And it's also the best way to protect low-income individuals from rising carbon prices. We know that the biggest financial impact of pollution pricing is on upper income and wealthier people from a total financial perspective, but from a proportionality perspective of how it affects your life, it disproportionately places a bigger burden on lower working and middle income folks. And if we provide a rebate for them, it helps them manage that transition financially to address those affordability concerns that so many people have. And we have come up with other funding mechanisms to fully fund our climate action plan. It's a $65 billion plan. It is the most aggressive, ambitious, yet doable climate plan any political party in Ontario has ever put forward, both from a policy perspective, but also from a financial commitment perspective.
No, go ahead.
My question is about the FIT and microfit programs. Are you guys thinking of restarting them a little bit so that more people can get involved with putting solar cells on their homes or wind turbines on their properties? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the cost of solar and wind energy in particular have dropped so much over the last decade that we really don't need feed-in tariff programs any longer to incentivize the installation of renewable energy projects. The cost of solar, for example, has gone down 97% in the last 10 years. Cost of wind has gone down by about 85% in the last 10 years. So what we really need is to make sure we have a policy framework that commits to purchasing that power on the grid, enables things like virtual and net metering, so people can take power off the grid, put power onto the grid, and our financial incentives for green retrofit programs would give homeowners the choices of the best way to lower the carbon footprint of their home. Solar panels absolutely could be one of those. I mean, you should consult a green building retrofit expert for your own particular individual needs, because oftentimes the most financially beneficial way of doing it is to insulate your home and to get fossil gas out of your home through air source heat pumps and things like that. But solar panels might be a part of that, and that can be part of the grants that you receive. But the bottom line is FIT programs were initially designed when the cost of renewable energy was much higher than it is today as a way to incentivize the creation of the industry. Now that that's been accomplished, there are the need for those kinds of incentives no longer exist.
Tell us a little bit more about this tuition thing. So 60,000 students, over how many years are you targeting students? Would they apply for it, or is it just through programs? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so 60,000 students over 4 years. They would be able to apply for it, and it would be program specific for training and retraining in new climate economy jobs, particularly targeting the trades. And that's where we have the biggest shortage. I mean, if you look at one of the barriers to really rolling out something like a green building retrofit program is the labor force shortages we're facing in the trades. And so it's really filling in those gaps. And we also know that there are so many young people who want well-paying jobs and meaningful careers and helping to address the climate crisis. And here is a perfect opportunity for them to be able to achieve that and be able to afford and access the education needed to do it.
There are no more questions on the ground. We'll now go to Zoom.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to any Zoom online questions. Please use the raise hand function or message in the chat, and I'll call on you. First up, we have Richard Southern from City News. Richard, please go ahead.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you. I want to ask the Green Party leader about a different type of green. A lot of Ontarians lately have been talking about the large number of cannabis stores. There's almost 1,900 in the province, and it's a number that grows every day. If you become Premier, Mr. Schreiner, would you move to curtail that?
So to be clear, Richard, I've been supportive of giving municipalities more planning power and tools to reduce and prevent the clustering of cannabis stores in certain neighborhoods. I know some people are critical of that because they would say, well, is that interfering in the free market? But we have to ensure the vibrancy and vitality of our commercial streets and neighborhoods, and ensure that other small businesses have the opportunity to be able to open stores. I mean, I think you're going to see some market correction there over time, but the clustering is creating real challenges in certain neighborhoods, and allowing municipalities to have some more planning tools and power to address that issue, I think, is vitally important.
But you wouldn't mandate that on a provincial level as Premier, though, correct?
No, I think it's better to leave it up to local municipalities and for the province to give them the power to be able to make those planning decisions.
Thanks, Mike. And real quick, too, the Liberals promising to bring back grade 13 on an optional basis. Do you agree? Would you bring back grade 13, Mike?
Well, I think on an optional basis, I'm fine with that because we know there are some students who certainly benefit from that extra year of schooling. But I think the big education announcement today is the one that's guaranteeing free tuition for 60,000 young people who want a career in the new climate economy and who are excited about the opportunity of accessing high-paying, good jobs in the trades to address the climate crisis that we're facing.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. For any other questions from the Zoom, please use the raise hand function or message in the chat. All right, that looks like everything for now.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you all being here today. I just want to say how much I deeply appreciate the fantastic candidates we have here in London and across the province who are putting forward the vision of the kind of Ontario we want to build, a kind of Ontario that addresses the climate crisis and creates new career and good job opportunities for people and invests in young people. That's what we're here today to talk about, is investing in young people, ensuring that they have a prosperous, livable future, and the Ontario Greens are ready to provide the leadership to make that happen. Thank you so much.